administration on Thursday said people enrolled in some small government-sponsored healthcare plans will not face a penalty under Obamacare in 2014, even though
All right, so welcome to the show, World Soccer Radio, Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Nick Geber and Danny Page with you tonight, as we are each and every weeknight from 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the very same Sports Byline USA Network. And, of course, a big hello to our men and women in uniform around the world listening to this show via American Forces. Lot going on today, Danny.
Yeah, there's a whole lot going on today. You know, we never really hit a midweek lull on this program, do we, Nick? We'll talk a lot more about the transfer that really has all of Europe abuzz. It is Juan Mata's move from Chelsea to Man United. There's a whole lot brewing around this impending transfer. We'll also chat with Brian Sciaretta, our good friend who contributes to the New York Times. He is quite an authority on United States soccer. And we have to look, of course, at the resignation of Sandro Rosell, the president of
Yeah.
Barcelona, who walked away today.
Some shenanigans going on there at Barcelona, Danny. But really, we're going to talk more about this Man United situation because there's so many side stories that come out from this. Their transfer policy, where they find their players, whether it's the Glazers or Sir Alex Ferguson that was in charge beforehand. Let's have a little chinwag about it, Danny, and I'm sure we'll come up with some interesting angles.
You always come up with the interesting angles, Nick. I know I have a couple of opinions on United's transfer policy in general, really, over these last 3-4 years. It doesn't seem to be changing this year. They just continue to bring in players from other Premier League teams, and it makes no sense to me. That's something I really am hoping to get into today, if you'll give me a moment or two.
You can have more than a moment, Danny. You can have
Okay.
quite a lot of moments because we're going to be with you all hour here on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. We are on with you from 9 to 10 Eastern, 6 to 7 Pacific, Monday through Friday. This is your home for the beautiful game and, of course, a World Cup year, so loads of stuff going on. These are the big stories shaking the world, and, of course, we're going to listen to the most amazing 999, or shall we say, what is it till we dial here? It's
911.
911 call. I don't know. How did I forget that?
You've never had an emergency in your life.
No,
That's it.
I've not called 911, actually, about my team not doing well. So we're going to hear what happens when someone does. If you haven't heard it already, it is, of course, all over the internet. It's amazing. All right, as you said, Brian Sciaretta joining us in just a few minutes. We're going to talk a little Yanks abroad, a little U.S. men's national team. We're going to find out what they're doing in Brazil. Are they just checking the place out for hot women and bikini wax? I think they are, Danny, the Brazilian in effect.
Wow, great stuff, Nick. You really know how to close a segment.
Well,
don't
hey,
you?
we talked about Jenny Agutter last week, and yesterday, so why not?
Aunt Jenny. We're going to talk about Aunt Jenny on the show.
All right. We'll be right back on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Nick Geber and Danny Page, 800-878-PLAY, Twitter at World Soccer Radio. That's Twitter at World Soccer Radio. We'll be right back.
If you drive a pre-owned GM vehicle with OnStar, you've got a powerful connection to help wherever you go, but only if you activate the service. So we're giving you a chance to test drive it for 3 months at no cost or obligation. Just push the blue OnStar button and ask for 3 months on us. If you're lost or need help, we'll be there. Offer good on 2006 or newer, digitally equipped pre-owned and non-active GM models. Visit OnStar.com for coverage map, details, and system limitations.
Health insurance is on everybody's mind right now. You either don't have it or you have it and you think it's too expensive. And you probably feel like you don't have any options. We can help. We are InSphere Insurance Solutions. We offer health insurance plans from major carriers nationwide and likely have a plan that can save you money. Whether you're self-employed, on a COBRA plan that's about to expire, or you simply don't have health insurance where you work and you need it, InSphere Insurance Solutions can help you. Our agents will help you find coverage you can afford. InSphere Insurance Solutions is an authorized agency in all 50 states, including the District of Columbia. Plans may not be available in all states. 800-614-1242. 800-614-1242. 800-614-1242. 800-614-1242. Who did you let down today? Your wife? Your kids? Well, how about yourself? Take a look in the mirror. If you're tired of your drug and alcohol problem, you need to fix the problem, and right now, before you hurt or kill yourself, or worse yet, somebody else. Call the addiction specialist now at the Detox and Treatment Helpline, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you have private insurance, we specialize in finding you the right treatment. When you call right now, you'll speak to a recovering addict who understands what you're going through right now. Let us help you break your addiction to drug and alcohol before it's too late. This call is completely confidential and free. So if you have private insurance, take 5 minutes of your time. Call right now. I promise it'll change your life. 800-296-1325. 800-296-1325. 800-296-1325. That's 800-296-1325.
Want to stay in touch with your favorite Sports Byline USA Network hosts? Like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at Sports Byline USA. You can also see the latest news in the world of sports, learn about upcoming contests and giveaways, plus catch up on guest info so you never miss a moment with the biggest names in every sport. Football, basketball, baseball, MMA, and more. No matter where you are in the U.S. or around the world, you can stay connected to the host and fans who love what you love. So check us out on Facebook and Twitter at Sports Byline USA.
All right, welcome back. World Soccer Radio. Nick and Danny with you. 800-878-PLAY. If you've got something to say, now's your time for you to sound off here on the Sports Byline USA Network.
How can they do it, Nick?
800-878-PLAY or Twitter. Wait. I got to do the gun thing that you did yesterday.
The blazing guns.
The blazing guns. I'll do that for you, Danny. Or Twitter at World Soccer Radio.
We have our first tweet of the day. It's from Edward Hart, who we hear from a lot. Always great commentary at Idaho United. Edward says, Yanks Abroad should be renamed, quote, Yanks Sucking Abroad. And I take that personally, man. Okay? Apparently he hasn't been watching Terrence Boyd at Rapid Wien in Vienna, Austria.
Yeah, probably not. But the goalkeepers have been doing well. All right, I'll tell you what. Before we do that, though, let's talk about Man United. Because the big move, of course, Juan Marta expected tomorrow to be announced. And I asked this, Danny. I heard it was Marta coming. Because that's probably all they could afford. But then I was told it was Juan Marta. But does it really make a difference, Marta or Marta? Is this going to be...
mean Marta.
Marta. Yeah, Marta. You get it, right?
No,
it was a good one. I spent hours coming up with that one.
Right.
Hours.
So what's your point? You've had
Is it
your
enough?
stick.
Is it enough?
Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Geber. He'll be here all night, folks. Well, apparently, here's one thing that surprised me from the outset, is it is enough to sway Wayne Rooney to stay. I mean, that's the biggest news of this, right, is that you can sign Juan Mata, not Marta, and you can convince Rooney to stay on board. Apparently, Rooney's agent is in talks on an extension, and he would be there well into his 30s.
Well, speaking of Marta, weren't we just talking about Brazilian wax? I mean, there has to be, right?
Nick,
what?
Stay on topic.
All right.
Okay? No, I mean, are you getting the same vibe kind of from Rooney's
the question
likelihood to stay at United?
Danny, did Wayne Rooney ever really want to leave, or was this just a ploy to try to get them to do something? I mean, you can go down to North London right now and take a look at Arsenal, where they are not making any moves. Arsene Wenger said, don't expect any signings.
Well, no, he didn't. He said,
He said, don't expect any signings. I will have the baguette. Thank heavens for little girls. No. No signings, apparently, according to Arsene Wenger. Now, whether he's, under-promising and over-delivering, you can go to United, go up north, and all of a sudden, things start to look a little rosier. Is this going to make Wayne Rooney stay? What are Wayne Rooney's options, Danny? That's what you have to ask yourself. We talk about this a lot, and we assume that these players operate in a vacuum. We assume that these players have a long list of every club they want to be in, and they push. I'll take Real Madrid. I'll take Barcelona. I'll take Galatasaray. Heck, I'll even Sydney FC. Look, they look at the list. But the fact is, unless those clubs are coming in for them, their options are limited. We know that Wayne Rooney is wanted by Arsenal and Chelsea. But maybe, just maybe, he doesn't want to go there.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't want to go there. I think
but wants
he
to
knows
go to join Gareth Bale or, what have you.
I think he knows he would face a lot of abuse as well.
Yeah.
And he doesn't seem to be too game for that sort of negativity being tossed his way throughout his country, especially heading into the World Cup. Wayne Rooney, just like anyone else, wants to be beloved. I think
and maybe he's a regular. He's a regular John. He's got his favorite brothel there in Manchester. Doesn't want to go south.
I think that Juan Mata, we forget he was basically the league leader in assists. I think it was last season, or if not 2 seasons ago.
Oh, how we forget.
One of the most prolific facilitators of play in the Barclays Premier League. Here's what I think. This is a good move in the right direction. Here's what I think is the issue, though, is that you still have for the remainder of this season Nemanja Vidic and Rio Ferdinand as your center half pairing, or Johnny Evans, or whomever. It's pathetic. So if Manchester United do go and spend a lot of money on center halves in the summer, I think they're putting themselves in a far better position. Really, the whole back line needs to be redone, actually. I think they're putting themselves in a better position, but you look at what Chelsea have with Mourinho and what City have built. you have to see United trailing this for a very long time.
Danny, this is a move born out of availability of Juan Marta, number one, and desperation, number two. Desperation because if they don't make the Champions League, it's going to become so much harder to rebuild the rest of the club that has to be rebuilt around the acquisition of Juan Marta. If they're not playing Champions League football, it's going to be very, very difficult to entice those guys in, because the teams that are playing Champions League football, and we're now really just talking about, is it going to be Tottenham or is it going to be Liverpool? Maybe Everton, but very unlikely. Is it going to be Liverpool or Tottenham? Either one of those teams going to have all that fresh money. They're going to be able to pump up the squad. They're all of a sudden going to be more attractive target to go to. So it becomes a critical moment. This was a desperation move, Danny, and a good move, not a bad move. I want to make sure I'm clear about that. It's a good move, but it is a desperation move because as of right now, Danny, United have blown their transfer record out the water.
Well, yes, it is a desperation move, but let's look at the characteristics that of this deal, okay? You're blowing your own transfer record out of the water. You're buying a fringe playmaker, not even a first-team player at one of the top clubs in Europe, and you're probably paying a bit too much. You know what those three items are pretty reminiscent of? Mesut Ozil's transfer to Arsenal. It is very similar to Mesut Ozil's transfer to Arsenal.
But as we said yesterday, Danny, the team around Mesut Ozil at Arsenal is a lot better, I think, than the team around Juan Marta will be. With the
you might not have said that the 1st of August. You might not have believed that the 1st of August.
With the exception of Wayne Rooney and Robin Van Persie, it still all hinges on their health, their ability to come back and get it done. Because, I'm sorry, Juan Marta alone can't get it done.
But it's easy to look at that now, Nick, and say that Mesut Ozil, he can't do it on his own. Aaron Ramsey's inconsistent, and Jack Wilshere and Olivier
Giroud's been doing very well for them.
But, Nick, that's what we would have said the 1st of August. Mata can help revitalize this team. I still believe that United's wing players and Kagawa can be pretty outstanding players. I think Fellaini... I think he's better than he's playing right now.
I hope so.
I think this can be a revitalizing signing for this club.
I
don't think it's going to put them in the... I know. Me too. I don't think it's going to put them in the Champions League for this season, but if they put the right line of defense behind this group, they'll be right back up there next year.
No, maybe not. Certainly they'll be competing, that's for sure. The question is, Danny, we just mentioned it, and we have time to get to this. Let's talk about United's transfer policy, because the Glazers have been under withering assault by Manchester United fans of the game since they took over the club. My perspective
with the
on
Newton
this,
and Heath scarves and all that.
Right. My perspective on this is that I think they've done, whether they financed it with debt, which they did.
Yeah, they did.
They have done a good job in growing the brand.
They still have the liquid.
They are currently... fourth on the money list overall in world football. They're growing. They have a massive international brand. There's nothing wrong with Man United. The Glazers have done a great job, but you cannot blame the current situation on the field and the Glazers. You cannot, on the one hand, say, yes, they're good because they let Sir Alex Ferguson run the ship, and then on the other hand say, oh, yeah, but we're in the crap right now because the Glazers didn't give the investment that we want. Alex Ferguson came out and said they were always there for him. If he needed a player, there was always the money for it. He was never short what he needed. So I don't know why we're having this discussion, but this discussion is all over the place. If you're going to assign blame to the current situation, assign it to Sir Alex Ferguson and the Glazers because of their botched transition policy, not because of their transfer policy.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, but I think that over time they've set themselves up for this. I mentioned this yesterday. I find it so incredibly disappointing that all this club does is cherry pick the players they want from the other teams in England, and that they haven't gone abroad to find a lot of talent. They haven't gone to the continent, and I think that really has set them back a long, long way. I mean, look at where Man City brought their players in from.
Yeah.
Man City's top players all came from abroad, whether it's Toure or Company or Aguero, Negredo. All these guys came from abroad. Fernandinho, Javi Garcia, Pablo Zabaleta. While United have just sat around and thought, oh, we want this player from this domestic club. And it is going to doom them in a serious way.
It is, but it isn't. Danny, you bring up a good point. But I have a feeling that United values players that are known commodities in the Premier League more than players that have good
But
Premier
those
League
commodities
potential.
are far more expensive than the ones that
Absolutely.
don't have that. That's the
I
problem.
am surprised they
They've
did.
overpaid time after time.
I'm just wondering, given the profile of Man United, if they would not have been better taking their big money and trying a serious raiding party down to Southampton, picking themselves up some quality midfielders,
Would've
a
been
quality
good
left
move.
back. I mean, they could have really, really, really done some good business down there. But instead, it's Juan Marta, a good signing, possibly a great signing. We'll have to wait and see how that goes, Danny. All right, we've got to go to break. We'll be right back. All right. Welcome back to the show, World Soccer Radio, Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Nick and Danny with you. Danny, a great tweet we got talking about this Neymar issue.
Yeah, Daniel hits us up. It's at @smashit_DI. He says, do you think Barcelona should be suspended from the Champions League if they are guilty in the Neymar scandal? He brings up a brilliant point. I know this is something we're going to get into a bit later in the show. My initial answer is no, but let's get into it a bit later on.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. We are going to talk about that. But in the meantime, let's turn our attention, if we can, to the domestic game and what's happening with the U.S. men's national team, what happens at Yanks abroad. And let's welcome to the show Brian Sciaretta from, you can find him at Brian Sciaretta. Brian, you write for a bunch of websites, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's American soccer now is getting most of my time these days, but I appear at Yanks Abroad, and from time to time I contribute to the New York Times with an article here and there.
Well, it's great to have you with us again, Brian. First of all, the U.S. national team right now in Brazil, is that right?
Yes, and they'll be coming back, I think, at the over the weekend. But they were down there. They had a couple scrimmages against Sao Paulo, and closed-door scrimmages where they're trying to, not let much be known about it, but they're also getting used to their surroundings there and where their team's going to be headquartered at, and a little bit of team building now. So, and maybe a chance for Klinsmann to look at maybe some depth pieces, and as opposed to most previous January camps, he has a large contingent of his core now. So it's probably going to be a productive trip.
So, Brian, what is the word from Sao Paulo? How did those matches go?
They lost one 2-1, and they won another one 2-1. Again, details are scarce about who scored and who played well, but I'm sure more details will probably become more known when American journalists have a chance to interview players and coaches when they get back to Los Angeles, at the early part of next week.
Well, that's
Brian, what a dramatic change here for the U.S. men's national team. I think you alluded to it a moment ago. I remember when this January camp was basically the U.S. B team, and it certainly isn't the A-plus team, but isn't it just strange with so many of these players in Major League Soccer now playing domestically and in Mexico that Klinsmann gets this opportunity to call in a lot of the players that will actually be in Brazil come June?
Yeah, it's people talk about where American players should be playing. I think each player has their own solution that they have to seek out, and there's a lot more factors that go into things in the national team when a player chooses clubs. But it's kind of working out now where MLS is, wants the best American players. They're hungry for them, and there are some benefits now in the fact that these January camps are going to be camp where you're going to get here, help build up the core and team chemistry heading into the World Cup, and that's invaluable. To have extra weeks where a lot of where Ghana and Portugal and in Germany, they don't have these camps. They don't have their core together right now. So perhaps it's going to play to the U.S.'s advantage and chance to build a team, chance to identify a style and how they want to play these games come the summer. So, yeah, I think, there are some added benefits there for Klinsmann and company, for sure.
Very good stuff. I recall, one thing we talked about, Brian, is we're joined by Brian Sciaretta, American Soccer Now, Yanks Abroad contributor to the New York Times. I remember one thing we talked about a lot in 2009 was the benefit that the Confederations Cup had in allowing us to go and allowing the men's national team to go and familiarize themselves with things in Brazil. Do you think this will be enough so that at least the staff and some of the key guys kind of know the drill? I think that helps so much with a major tournament like this.
Yeah, every cycle is different. There are some drawbacks to the fact that the U.S.'s headquarters are in Sao Paulo, and there's going to be a considerable traveling distance and time away from their headquarters in Brazil just to go to a lot of these matches. So, it's so.
Do you think they should have reconsidered?
Excuse me,
Danny? All right, I think.
Hello?
Sorry. Okay. No, we got you, Brian. So that's a very interesting point. But look, the U.S. has a history of being in situations where just maybe, we've had problems like that in the past, and it seems like that is getting rectified with this sort of scouting trip. But Brian, let's turn our attention, if we can, for a minute to the situation with the Yanks abroad, particularly in the Premier League. It's been very, very disappointing for American outfield players not having a particularly exciting season.
Oh yeah, not only in the Premier League but also the Bundesliga, where only Timothy Chandler is a guaranteed starter, and he doesn't even play for the national team really much anymore. But yeah, in the Premier League, you got Jeff Cameron's doing well, but aside from that, Josie Altidore is in a tough situation at Sunderland. And he's far from the team's only concern right now. But it is concerning, but it's kind of like the changing scape of American soccer, where you start to see guys like Juan Agudelo get denied a work permit there, and then the Premier League is really going to be closed to Americans unless they they're either dual nationals or they're regulars with the U.S. national team. Right. So, yeah, it is a tough situation right now, and it's something that really fluctuates from time to time, whether or not there's a lot of Americans there or there's a drought of Americans there. It's something that always, and right now it just seems to be a little bit of the on the short end of the stick, but Jeff Cameron's doing very, very well. Unfortunately, That's about it right now in the outfield.
Yeah, you know, Brian,
positions.
You bring up a fascinating point because, I've talked about this over the years when we get a lot of our listeners and people that sort of follow the show very excited about, the American players and can they go to Europe and can they do this and can they do that, particularly young players. And up until recently, there was a time when it was very, very difficult for them to get there because of the European work permit laws. And then you're right, it eased up substantially, but it is getting very, very difficult again. And you're right, it will squeeze out a lot of U.S. players that don't have that dual nationality, that don't have the requisite hours or percentage of high-level matches, senior matches no less, right, with the U.S. national team. It is going to become more difficult. And it's interesting when you look at the guys like Clint Dempsey coming back to MLS, obviously Landon Donovan making the decision, to come back and play, that they've done this now. Is MLS becoming a much more attractive place now for players to play rather than trying to sort of pull every string they can to maybe go to a second or third tier team abroad? Are these players now looking and saying, well, I think I can stay and develop just as well here in the States?
Well, sure. I mean, you look at, you have to look at, this World Cup's going to be a big telling point, in seeing how some of these MLS-based players do. And
of course, Michael Bradley as well returning. Sorry, yes.
Yeah, of course. But, obviously if MLS can throw these numbers out there, then of course it becomes an attractive option. I mean, money does dictate players. I mean, if you spend the most amount of money, you're going to get the better players, and that's true anywhere. And yeah, if MLS and if a guy like Michael Bradley can do it and do well, then it's going to convince the next guy to do the same as well. Now, of course, Nick, the one thing you have to consider is that part of the reason why Michael Bradley and Clint Dempsey are getting paid tremendously well by Major League Soccer is not just for the national team achievements, but also because of their achievements in Europe.
Right.
So really, players are going to have to go over to Europe and still achieve some kind of success and then hit their payday in Major League Soccer. It's going to be interesting. The number of guys who can do it, who can achieve these big paydays, primarily playing in Major League Soccer, like Omar Gonzalez is trying to do it now, although I think he still might even leave eventually. But a guy like Landon Donovan are going to be few and far between. I think you're still going to see a lot of people trying to make their bones overseas for the time being. But then obviously England's tightening up on its work permits as well.
Yeah, it's going to get much more difficult.
It's really fascinating as to what kind of doors are opening for American players.
Yeah, it's a great point. It really is chicken and egg. I mean, it becomes so much more difficult for young players that want to go abroad and ply their trade, increase their value and then come back here, almost as if they're sort of going to have to find another proving ground. On the other hand, we are seeing a lot more American players going to play in Liga MX, and maybe they'll be going to some of the other South American leagues. Maybe we'll see them more in Argentina or Brazil, where it probably has a slightly higher level of play.
Yeah, I mean, that's again, then you're dealing with pay, and and that's a vastly different. I mean, those kind of leagues, particularly in South America, are dominated by young, hungry players who are still trying to get out of it. I mean, now, yes, Brazil's paying more to keep some of their better players or bring back some of them, like like Pato is there, Alexander Pato, and Ronaldinho is there. But still, you have a lot of kids over there in these South American leagues who are dying to get over to Europe. So it's really kind of going from one feeder league to another feeder league. Whereas if they can make the jump to Europe, I think that's the better option. Mexico is really in a state of flux right now as to where it stands in the league. I mean, Major League Soccer, yes, it still trails Liga MX, but Major League Soccer is gaining a lot of ground right now.
Oh, great.
And on top of that, when you look at the fact that, like, Jose Torres has fallen off, Michael Orozco's kind of fallen off, Edgar Castillo has fallen off, like, there really hasn't been many impact players, and Hercules Gomez has impacted cycle. Well, yeah, he had a couple of big goals early on under Klinsmann, or middle Klinsmann cycle. Is still, he's a little bit older, but he still came up to Major League Soccer. There hasn't really been too much development out of Liga MX ever, really. I mean, Beasley's playing there, but he's more of a European product right now. Liga MX has not really developed too many American players. I don't really see that as, that's going to be kind of a testing ground because we haven't really seen that much success for American players at the Liga MX, which is kind of surprising. I still think it's going to be mostly players who are going to want to play in Europe. I mean, they grew up. There's a lot of Americans.
Hey, Brian, I have to put you on hold there. We got to go to break. We're going to keep you, though, on the line, and we're going to pick you up on the other side. World Soccer Radio, Sports Byline USA. We're talking to Brian Sciaretta about everything United States national team and U.S. players. We'll be right back after this.
Finally.
All right, welcome back to the show, World Soccer Radio, Sports Byline USA. Find us on Twitter at World Soccer Radio. Nick Geber and Danny Page with you, and we are pleased to welcome back to the show our very special guest, Brian Sciaretta. Brian, so we were, before the break, looking at some of the issues surrounding sort of the migration path of U.S.-based players, given some of the difficulties with work permits now rising in England in particular, and the European Union. What's the solution here, Brian?
I mean, the only solution really is to make sure your own domestic league is strong as possible. I mean, unfortunately, you can't really control what any other country does. Sometimes even countries can't control like their own governments and work permits and stuff. So, I mean, the only solution is kind of hope for the best and groom the best possible players to make it an attractive option, but also make sure that your own domestic league is respected and can produce good players if need be. I mean, that's really the only path that's really the only thing that people can control.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Brian. It has been interesting. Let me put it this way. It's been fun for me, at least personally, to turn on some of those Liga MX games and be able to watch U.S. players here and there. It really has been quite interesting. One thing I think we're on the fringe of and looked at a little bit is the Agudelo move. How much will this benefit Agudelo as a player and possibly put him into this U.S. men's national team setup? I know he's on the outside looking in, but, the Dutch league has always been a great proving ground, whether it was Josie or Bradley most recently, has been a great proving ground for American players.
I mean, I can't think of the last American who didn't do well there in the Eredivisie. Right. I mean, whether it be go back to John O'Brien or Ernie Stewart, or now Aaron Johansson. And Michael Bradley obviously had one of his best seasons there, and and Josie. This is a good league, and this is exactly what he needs. I think things have turned out better for him than they would have any other time. If he had just gone right to Stoke, I think this is even better because you're dealing with a guy now. I think he's going to be able to get his chances to score. He's going to be going into a league where it's more free flowing. He's a young player. He's going to be able to play an offensive game that he likes, and it's going to probably prove to be a good stepping ground whenever he wants to make that move over to the Premier League. The Eredivisie is well respected. There's been some success stories. Some guys have not have struggled to make a step up and play, but generally it's a very good league. And I think that this is the kind of thing where it's out. He could surpass some people in the depth chart ahead of him. Whether it be, some of the MLS guys like, Wondolowski, maybe even Eddie Johnson, and some of the other guys abroad like Terrence Boyd, who has yet to even score for the U.S. national team. Juan Agudelo has put himself in a situation where he could be a very, despite not playing in any qualifiers, he could be a dark horse candidate to make this World Cup team. I can actually envision such a scenario.
Oh, interesting stuff, Brian. Listen, we'd love to continue the conversation with you over the next few weeks and months as we get down to World Cup. And then, of course, when the big event itself comes, we'd love to check in with you. Brian Sciaretta, at Brian Sciaretta, is that where you want everyone to go, Brian?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, find him on Twitter, at Brian Sciaretta. Brian, thanks a lot. Always a pleasure.
Thanks very much, guys.
All right, cheers.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, so very interesting stuff, Danny.
Yeah,
of course, I didn't think about that whole issue with the work permits tightening up and really, the sort of migratory path of players trying to elevate their game and come back for the big payday is going to be much more difficult.
Well, I think the thing you see with the United States men's national team now is that there is this very real sense of urgency among players that with the exception of a few names, players are not assured of their spot in Brazil. And I think one reason that precedent was established was that Landon Donovan was forced to earn his way back into Jurgen Klinsmann's team. Klinsmann said, we're not just letting you back in. You are going to have to play well for your club. Yeah. You are going to have to succeed for your country, and then we'll let you back in. What?
Okay,
what is the sound effect?
I don't know. The sound effect
Did you forget to put on your Depends today?
I did. I'm sitting in them right now. Very nice. Thank you. It's a little mushy, though. But
right.
No, I just think that was a lot more show than it was substance, that whole
No, it was not at all.
But Danny, I don't want to talk about this right now. I want to actually talk about...
what do you want to talk about?
Well, because there's a couple of big stories we were talking about.
There's a lot going on.
The Man United transfer saga, and we were talking about Man United's transfer policies, and we're going to switch back here. But I do want to play this little thing, Danny, that we had, because, a lot of people at United have been very, very upset about what has happened, specifically with the situation at Old Trafford. And this just happened, and we have to play this, Danny, because this is really astounding, right? Okay, here we go. This is a call to 999, which is the English equivalent of 911. Here you go.
Hello, you're through to the police. How can I help?
Yeah, could I speak to Sir Alex Ferguson, please?
Not via police 999 line, I'm afraid, no.
Sir Alex, the result is all wrong. They had extra time, and it was a total utter load of rubbish.
So you're actually on the 999 police line. Is there any crime you need to report to the police this evening?
Yeah, a crime, yeah. I'll report a crime. Yeah.
And what crime is that?
The crime is that Manchester United were absolutely knackered.
Can I take your name, please? Okay, and what's your home address? Okay. I'm going to clear the line now then, okay?
Yeah, well, can you phone me back then? You must have me. Why
gonna
not?
phone you back because it's not a police matter.
Not policeman. Are you a policewoman?
I'm not a policewoman, no, I'm a member of police staff, but this is not a 999 matter.
999 matter?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
I'm going to go now. Right, goodbye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
All right.
Oh, my God.
That is unbelievable, Danny. It really is. I mean, that was true. So that was a real call. I mean, that was not a spoof. That was not a send-up. That was a real Man United fan, drunk, obviously, very upset about the situation. But, you know, Danny...
It was right after the Sunderland game, too.
It was. And... Danny, it's
What?
fascinating because we've looked at Man United's transfer policies, but as of right now, January what, the 23rd, right? 2014, Manchester United have smashed their transfer record with the Juan Marta move. You add, what, £37 million for Juan Marta, add that to £27.5 million, every penny well spent on Marouane, I have massive hair Fellaini, and you chuck in 700,000 quid for Saidi Janko, and all of a sudden you've got, what, £63 million?
Yeah.
An absolute transfer record for Man United. Yet we still hear about how the Glazers aren't supporting the team, how this is the Glazers, how Man United don't have the money to splash the cash, they can't do this, they can't do that. I mean, it is the worst sort of denial that they could possibly be in, these guys.
Yeah, they're in absolute denial. And that 999 call really exemplifies it. Let's see if Juan Mata can bring him to life. They don't play again till next Tuesday now. I believe it's against Solskjaer, too, because they're out of the FA Cup. They're obviously off this weekend. They play on Tuesday.
Yep, so we'll have to wait and see. But in the meantime, another big story that's breaking is this whole situation at Barcelona with the Neymar transfer from Santos. The transfer was, what, 47 million? Or was it 57 million?
I
it was 57 million. 17
I got to get out
million.
my pocket calculator for this one.
17 million went to Santos for the player.
Yes.
And then 40 million went missing.
Yes.
Apparently that 40 million went to the father of Neymar.
Yes.
Danny, this is smoke and mirrors. This is nasty stuff. This is the rot that is destroying football. Third-party ownership. There should never have been, Danny.
Well, part of it actually is that he's partially owned by a supermarket chain. He's owned.
Well, it's third-party ownership is what it is. Right.
The third-party ownership is a supermarket chain, and Barcelona is being accused of paying his father for basically undue influence.
Yeah.
Right.
That's correct.
That in the end, Barcelona paid so much that Neymar would be the most expensive footballer ever. The thing that bothers me is, isn't Barca supposed to be the
shining beacon. The shining beacon. But, you know, it's all rotten there in Spain, Danny. There's no amount of obfuscation and smoke and mirrors is going to change the fact there are backroom deals, there are bungs that are paid, there's undue influence, and most importantly, there's an enormous helping hand with tax breaks from the Spanish government so that these teams can thrive.
Well,
financial fair play, Danny, a total, utter, complete joke.
Well, and the clubs negotiate their own television deals.
Now they get all the money. They get the
right,
money.
Exactly. Where would England be if United was negotiating their own deal and
be in
Cardiff
trouble
City
right
negotiating their own deal?
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
It's shady. It just bothers me because this is the club that everyone would have thought would never do.
Well, now we're going to see, Danny. Does that make him an ineligible player? If he was an ineligible player, does that mean they get DQ'd from the Champions League?
No.
Are UEFA gonna? Do they have the stones
should
do
they
this?
be?
Should they be? I don't know. I mean, I don't think so because did it give you a sporting advantage?
Well, yes.
No.
Should they,
But I mean, where was he going to go? He was going to go to Barcelona, or he was going to go where?
Should they be out of the tournament if they were using an illegal player?
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
Will they? No.
No, of course not.
No way. UEFA's not just gonna. Maybe they'd knock them out for a year or something like that. But I'll tell you what, they will not bring down that kind of punishment until the day after they are out of the tournament. They're not going to disrupt a big money Man City Barcelona tie, which actually
Barcelona's that's their bread and butter. It's the money that lubricates. It's the dosh that makes them, all these executives at FIFA and UEFA want to be there.
I'm kind of drifting over almost now to the I'm drifting over a little bit over to the side that says City might be able to pull this thing off. These controversies for the psychological approach of players, it's inescapable in a lot of ways, I think. Really. I think this is going to distract them.
No, I think so too. I mean, this is a bad situation. Rosell, the president or the chairman of Barcelona, has had to resign as a result of this. I mean, there is turmoil going on. Now, this isn't the first time this has happened at Barcelona or in Madrid, and this won't be the last time either. But it is time that we stop looking at them by putting on our rose-colored glasses and deciding that this is the model for the world. The fact of the matter is, they are two massive clubs in a league of a lot smaller clubs. They are two wealthy powerhouses in a league of paupers. Most of the other teams in that league are all selling teams. There are only two teams in there right now, maybe three, that are buying teams, that are able to compete year in and year out. So I don't know why we constantly look at the Spanish league and we give them the plaudits and the approval and the applause, and we talk about how wonderful it is. The fact of the matter is, it's one of the most top-heavy leagues in the world, Danny.
Yeah, it is the most top-heavy league in the world. And I don't know what's going to happen to Barcelona. Thanks for the tweet, by the way, to Daniel as well. They could be kicked out, but they should be, but they won't be.
All right, we're going to have to go to break, and we'll be back to wrap it up. By the way, once again, big hello to our men and women in uniform listening on American Forces. If you're listening on iHeartRadio or iTunes or our brand new live streaming video feed at YouTube. We used to be on that other service, and we're now at Ground Central at the big mama ship, YouTube. Of course, Sports Byline USA. Man, we are everywhere, and we love doing this every weeknight, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Sports Byline USA. All right, we're going to go to break, and we'll be back to wrap it up. Find us on Twitter at World Soccer Radio. Nick and Danny, we'll be right back after this.
In my blue heaven.
All right, so welcome back, World Soccer Radio. Nick and Danny with you. I want to thank Brian Sciaretta for coming on. It's always great to have Brian on. It's sometimes on these shows, it's easy to either get caught up in the let's talk only about MLS and about American players and U.S. men's national team, or let's only talk about Europe. And finding that right balance.
Or only talk about England, which is
England, right?
Your approach.
Well, no, not really, Danny. We talked a little bit about Barca today. I'm happy to talk about the Australian A-League if you would like. Or the Juniper League.
Hey, I'll be watching the Australian Open, though, Nick. How about Federer and Nadal maybe for the final time? That's good stuff, too.
How about that? Of course, on a British perspective, Andy Murray whimpers out of that one.
He got his Wimbledon. That's that.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, I want to thank Brian Sciaretta for coming on. We will be focusing more and more on the U.S. men's national team and in the run-up to the World Cup. Lots of great stuff happening there. Find us on Twitter at World Soccer Radio. If you are listening and you are around your computer or your mobile phone or something like that and you'd like to see the show, you can do that. Just go to watchwsr.com. That's watchwsr as in worldsocceradio.com. Amanda, Andy, some of these digital platforms we have are great. iHeartRadio, you should make us a part of your daily pulse. TuneIn's wonderful. You can bookmark us there. We're also on the cable radio network. We're on the affiliate stations of the Sports Byline Network. That's terrestrial radio. Of course, we're on terrestrial radio with American Forces, on the Fans Network. Man, we are everywhere, Danny, and we love doing it, don't we?
Or if you live close to me in Santa Barbara, you can bring a piece of string and a cup over, and I'll just kind of talk you through the show.
Actually, the next one we're going to be doing, the whole show from the roof in semaphore signals. That'll be next week.
Good stuff, Nick. It's always fun, brother. I'll see you tomorrow. Going to look at the FA Cup, I'm sure, in the weekend matches ahead.
Absolutely. Once again, be sure to check back with us tomorrow, 9 p.m. East time. In the meantime, folks, coming up next, speaking of legends, we got a legend of the game himself, Mr. Ron Barr, coming up. That is the broadcasting game. Coming up next here on the Sports Byline USA Network. In the meantime, Danny and I, we're going to take a breather. Have a great night, folks out there. Stay safe, and we'll speak to you tomorrow.